case, let's take
David in Houston.
You're on with Eric and Jamie.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How are you?
Okay. Very good. Very good.
What did you want to talk about today?
Well, I was raised in a, as you've heard before, a really, really in-depth Christian religion called the Christadelphian religion. If you've heard of that?
Nope. But
okay. Do you want me to summarize what they believe, or
Christadelphian? You said?
Yeah.
Christadelphian, like Philadelphian, but with Christo in front of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Give us a summary. I figured it's that.
Okay. Well,
does Matt Damon go to that one?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Matt Damon.
This is going to be fast and unfair to people who call themselves Christadelphian.
Okay.
So it is a similar Christian religion to most others, except for some, what I would call subtle differences, what they would call gigantic differences. They don't believe in the Trinity. They believe that Jesus is the Son of God, not God himself.
Okay.
They don't believe in a physical Satan. They don't believe in a physical hell. They don't believe you go to heaven when you die. They believe that God's kingdom will be on earth. Yeah, after like a judgment, which isn't that uncommon. A lot of religions do that. Let's see where it goes. That Israel is God's chosen people, and in Israel is where the kingdom's going to be started, and judgment will be done. At that point, baptized people, I guess people who have a relationship with God, will be risen from the dead and judged worthy or unworthy. Worthy meaning you going to live in this kingdom age forever on earth. Unworthy meaning you die.
Okay.
That being the end of it.
Okay.
And that is, they come to that through what they consider to be the truth of the Bible.
And what version of the Bible is that?
The Christian Bible, depending on which one, whether it be the King James or the NIV or the NASB.
They don't stick to a specific version.
Probably just Protestant.
Well,
Right, yeah, they don't stick to a specific version. You could get whatever Christian Bible you want. Now you could debate the versions in that church, in which they do quite a bit.
Sure.
My brother speaks Hebrew. He learned Hebrew just for that reason, because of translational differences between what our Bible says versus what the original Old Testament Hebrew says. Not that he hasn't learned Greek or Aramaic, but he uses, his Hebrew to translate and to try to consider what's the difference between.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the background.
I realize that's kind of...
That's all good.
It's still not really fair to... It's probably a whole shitload more, but...
of course.
Anyway.
Just as long as the background is informing what you're going to say next. Yeah.
Truly. Okay. My issue is that I am coming out as an atheist.
Hey! All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that, like I said, I grew up in this church. I have friends in my family, and I'm sure you hear this all the time. Very, very difficult to do that.
Yes, it is.
I don't think I wouldn't be disowned, of course, but I would definitely be looked at as different. Not only because I've taught in these churches. Actively taught young people in these churches. I don't anymore, but I did. They don't know why I don't, but I don't anymore because of that reason.
Okay.
It's fair.
I love my father very, very much. He studies more than any pastor I've ever seen in my life, and I'm a devout Christian every day.
So your dad's a pastor?
Yeah.
What's that?
Your dad's a pastor?
Sure. In a Christadelphian church, if you're a baptized member, they don't baptize children. So if you were a baptized adult member, you could put yourself on a list, and in any given day, you could be a minister to the church.
Okay.
Just put yourself on the list. My dad's very, very good at it, and he does it almost every week.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why I say that he's basically the pastor, because he does it more than anybody else at that church. They have Bible schools, and there's different Christadelphian churches that have more members and more teaching. But anyway, I have a few issues, but my first one is that he's old. He's an old man. He's an old, sweet man in a bow tie. I don't want to break his heart, but I also don't want to be dishonest with him either.
Yeah. It's you are not in an easy situation.
And I guess the question is, I mean, there's the cost benefit analysis of coming out. Is the cost of potentially hurting that relationship still worth coming out as an atheist? Because you don't have to. I mean, it's totally up to whether or not how you find that.
I've thought about that. The only issue is that me being dishonest about it is supporting it.
Yeah, and
I feel like because I mean, when I visit my parents, I go to their church. I go to my wife's church every other Sunday, which isn't a problem for me. I actually enjoy religion. I'm not an atheist that thinks that religion shouldn't exist. If even if it's ignorantly, if people have some belief structure that may or may not be true, yet they treat each other good and they're charitable people and love each other, and there's a friendship group there that treat each other well, then that's a good thing.
It is, and
even if it's not true.
Well, because people are generally good. I mean, on the whole, people are generally wanting to just live a good life, find a community, find a place to belong, find people to care about and to build. And I get that. There are some people who actually have messaged in and been like,
with it.
I'm sorry?
I'm at this impasse. I'm at this sort of impasse with it where I will continue going to that church to the point to where they tell me not to, and I don't stand up and say bullshit every time somebody says something that I find to be incorrect.
Sure. That's probably wise. I would not.
Yeah, I mean, I can disagree in silence, and if they were to personally ask me, I would tell them what I thought, but...
Although I may have a bit of a Schadenfreude response if I saw it happen, I wouldn't do it. But, man, this is a really sticky situation, and it's something that does not have a right or wrong answer.
Well, it doesn't have a universal one, and I don't think you're ever going to, like, when you decide what you're going to do, you're never going to feel like, oh, obviously, 1 + 1 is 2, right? It's a difficult decision. It's basically...
I would have really liked to hear you say the pros outweigh the cons, and this is why, but...
Well, so I can't say that because I don't know your life as well as you. However, I can tell you my experience, and I know that Eric, throughout various parts of his life, has been in sort of more... I think evangelical is probably the wrong word, but more evangelical, passionate, etc., portions of the various Christian sects, and so might have more experience that way. But what I would say is, if this is causing an issue for you, sufficient that you have all but made this decision, but as I can kind of hear in your voice, but you're calling a show because you want confirmation that the pros outweigh the cons, I think at this point, you're trying to make yourself feel okay with a decision I think you may have already made.
Possibly. Well, here's the deal.
All right.
Is that...
Tell me the deal.
These guys study the Bible so in-depthly that the idea of, especially when it comes to prophecy, especially when it comes to prophecy, the prophecy is the confirmation stuff. They're not saying... I guess they wouldn't deny it, but at the same time, if you were to go to Christadelphian churches and listen, your proof wouldn't be in, we don't know any other reason, so therefore God. It would be in specific prophetic parts of the Bible.
Okay.
The Nostradamus type effect.
Right. Dry bones prophecy. Israel becoming a nation. All nations turning up against Israel in times, and the enmity between Palestine. So the Bible says all nations will turn up against Israel. Well, except for the young lions, I guess.
And different leaders who come into power, and everybody goes, that's the Antichrist. That's going to issue in the Antichrist. Every time there's an earthquake, every time there's a war.
Funny you say that.
Yeah.
Because it's true, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
someone did this thing. Obama said this thing that wasn't pro-Israel, and therefore hurricane.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. So I guess a couple
things work under the realm of chance.
Yeah.
And there will always be chance.
David, you're preaching to the choir, man.
True, you know.
Yeah,
metaphorically.
So it's not something I can truly argue against, other than saying, well, that just falls under the realm of chance.
So here's another thing you can do, David. You don't have to use the atheist word when you talk to your dad.
Mm-hmm.
At least not the first time, right? Because if you go to a church that is anything like mine, atheist means Satan worshiper. And if you said, Dad, I don't believe, or Dad, I love you and I care about you and I respect you very, very much, and that's why it's hard for me, but I feel like I want to talk to you about something, but I'm afraid of hurting you. You know, put him in a position to reaffirm. You know, let him know that you still care. I've hinted at that
for sure.
You know, and if you said, you know, Dad, I don't believe, and the scariest thing to me isn't that I don't believe, it's that I'm afraid I'm going to lose you or lose part of this relationship that I have with you. You know, then you put him in a position to consider the fact that you still love him, you still care, you're not taking on these different characteristics that a lot of people give to atheists. From there, you can move forward, and, you know, if he wants to talk or study the Bible with you, if you're up for it, it's totally okay to. It's, you know, take a look at prophecy. How many times has this prophecy been said it's been fulfilled? Right? How many earthquakes have happened? How many hurricanes have happened? How many times did they say? They said that Hitler was the, you know, the end times. They said that the First World War was the end times. They said that, I mean,
1967 was the end times.
And it just continues. And so at some point you can say, you know, it feels like this is putting people in a place to be afraid. But those are all conversations that you can have in the future. But breaching the topic, if you think that it would be negative to say atheist at first, we're not holding your feet to the fire, man.
Nope.
I mean, eventually in time, when they can see that you're an empathetic, kind, and caring human being, then after that, you can, you know, start saying atheist. And if they go, oh, well, I didn't know atheist, and you just say, no, it just means I don't believe. I already told you that. Come on, really? Yeah, of course. It just means I don't believe. I already told you, you know, and then, you know, then they can be in a position to be like, oh, he already told me. Mm-hmm. Oh, crap. Maybe I should ask more questions, you know, but it's not creating this place of necessarily having this baggage that's baked in that says, I hate you, I hate God, I worship the devil, you know, this would be a great thing to clip out.
I was going to say. Yeah.
But because
it's going to be my ringtone.
Yeah, do it. But it wouldn't carry that baggage necessarily. And I'm just going from my own personal experience because that's what it meant to me, and that's what it meant to the people I went to church with. So could be different, but that's the best I got for you, man.
That's pretty close. That's about what I want to hear.
So I would say just two things. One, you definitely have to call back. Sorry, but please.
Yeah, we want to know what happens.
We want to know. I don't want to miss the end of the you know, story, I suppose.
I feel like that's going to be a kind of a drawn out process because it wouldn't.
Oh yeah,
my dad.
Well,
it's not gonna happen all at once.
By the end of.
What I will say is, sorry, what were you saying, David?
I was just saying is that, you know, by coming out to him would just be a step one out of 150 steps. Because
well, you don't need to call us on every step, but we want to know that you're doing okay.
Call us every now and then.
Yeah, definitely. Keep in touch.
And I will.
Good.
You know what is sort of interesting about this whole thing is that switch is it's not a choice. It's a journey. It really is a journey because it you know, there was no single aha moment. You know, that was like, oh, none of this shit's true. But it was I said, it's a very in-depth group of people who study the Bible and use different parts of the Bible to,
we got you, man.
infer that the stuff is true.
So
I don't mean to hold up the line, but
so what I do want to say one last thing before
we wrap up.
Up this call, which is that in this discussion, I'm hearing sort of two kind of goals. Like one, it sounds like you've come to the conclusion that there isn't sufficient reason to believe this. You don't believe, and that two, there's a part of you that wants to be on the same page, belief-wise, with the rest of your family, with your father in particular. And that, I think, is
truly
blending with
it damaging
with the fear. So what I would say is,
him or him.
Yeah. So what I would say is, step one, like I would say, avoid arguments about Scripture, because really, it needs, like I would say, maintaining the relationship with your father is going to be key to having these discussions within the future, and key to, based on the way you're talking, being happy, right? Like it would be a bad thing if he said, well, you've blasphemed the Holy Spirit, get out, right? So just saying, like, one, there are definite cons to, well, let me bring you in this room and sit you down because I have this big serious thing, because it implies that you're a completely different person, right? So I would say, if you're going to have a conversation or series of conversations where you broach it, highlight that you're still your father's son, you still love him, but there's this thing that you don't believe and that you don't want it to come in between you and your father.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
that's a good idea.
There's that. And then if you can establish that, right, like that's a good framework to begin conversations about the topic.
All right, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you.
And keep in touch.
I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate your advice.
We appreciate you calling in.
Take care, buddy.